Welcome back to the Mega Meeple, the show all about gamers and the games that bring them together. I'm your host, Tom, and I want to thank you for hitting that download button. If you like what you hear, please be sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. And while you're there, leave us some kind words and put out some of that 5-star lovin'. And I'll give you a shout out at the next episode. And tell all your friends in your gaming groups about the Mega Meeple. I'd really appreciate it. Get the word out. I'm only one man. I could only do so much. Be sure to connect with me via the Facebook page, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, etc., 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 yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. You know the ones. And all the links to our social media pages are on the website, www.themegameeple.com. Check out our YouTube channel, where we do some unboxing videos and reviews of games and accessories, as well as some Kickstarter previews. And the link to that is also on our social media page on the website. All right, enough of the intro. Grab a seat at the gaming table, serve up some chips and dip, grab a Mountain Dew, and let's get on with the show. Welcome back to the Mega Meeple. This is episode 27, and yes, we did not have an episode last weekend, primarily because of we were just getting down from the post-con crud and just getting back into the rhythm of life, and then just as soon as we get our bearings again, we're entering into Thanksgiving and holiday season, so. Yeah, and we just didn't get around to it, so. But I hope everybody's having a good Thanksgiving weekend, and hope that your family is not arguing and fighting around the table. If your family is fighting, have you guys fight around the dinner table. Do not fight around the gaming table. So, I mean, hey, unless you're playing an RPG and it's part of your character. And then go all for it. Jump in both feet. But Al is not with us this weekend. He is, again, just with the Thanksgiving holiday. And also they're moving into their new apartment. And still getting out of the boxes. And God, do I know what that's like. So it's just me this time. And I hope you guys are getting all the good deals out there for Black Friday shopping. So I hope you guys find what you're looking for, and also find what your friends and family are looking for Christmas. Because if this is the time to buy some board games on sale for your friends and family and fellow gamers, this is the time to do it. Well, let's see. As far as the Mace Con, about a week or so ago. What did I buy? I didn't play much, mainly because the bulk of my time there was spent either hosting games or, as you heard in our last episode, running around and doing all the interviews. But I did host a game of Stop Thief and Scythe and Terraforming Mars, and all three of those, I had a group of people that played that had never played those games before. So all three games, I was able to, in a sense, introduce new players to the games and do like a quick demo and instructions. And then most of it they learned just by playing it. And the feedback I got is they really enjoyed it. In fact, one guy, he had just gotten his copy of Terraforming Mars that weekend. And he had not gotten a chance to open it up yet. So he signed up for playing the game that I had there. That was a good way for him to learn the game, get his feet wet by playing, and as a result, have more understanding, and as a result, have more of an understanding of how to play the game without having to go through all the rule books. So it was a good thing for him to play as well. Had two kids, probably like not even teenage years. I mean, the one was maybe looked to be about 10, And then the sister was maybe 12 or 13, not much older than the brother. But 2 of the 5 players that I had for Stop Thief, and they really enjoyed themselves. They had fun. And Scythe, the 4 or 5 people that I had playing that, I basically went around to each one of them during their turn to answer questions and show them what they can do and what options they had at that particular point in the game. And after about, I'd say about 3 or 4 rounds, they got into the rhythm of it, and they really enjoyed it. This is one of the first times I actually utilized the other side of the board, where in the extended board, where the hexes are all enlarged, the bigger format of the playing board. But all in all, everybody had fun playing. They enjoyed it. And then I got to play a little bit of Legend of the Five Rings, and get a little bit of I think I have to play that a few more times, because there are just too many phases and different turns within the phase. And luckily, in the rules reference that they have online, they have like a little flow chart of what the order of things and how everything kind of flows together. So I'm definitely printing that out and helping me learn that game. But there seems to be a big L5R presence locally here at one of our local game stores. So I'm hoping to be able to attend their LCG nights and play some games of that. But as you could tell from the previous episode, I had a lot of fun and a lot of people interviewed from game creators and publishers there at Maze that was showing off their games. I'm still in the process of editing the demo videos of those games, and those will be up on our YouTube channel very shortly. I think since I don't have really anything planned over this coming weekend, I'll be able to finish those up undistracted. So hopefully get those out by the end of this weekend, Thanksgiving Day weekend. Well, what the big news this past week is Fantasy Flight Games have finally confirmed their app for Imperial Assault. They introduced and talked briefly about it at GenCon last year, and even this year's GenCon, they people had asked about it, and they really didn't say much more about it. They just said it was coming. It's coming. Well, they finally put it on their website and made an official announcement. Gave some screenshots of what the app would look like, and I had put Imperial Assault on the back burner for me as far as actually getting it. I thought to myself, well, if I buy it now without really any commitment or promise that the app was actually going to be done, it's probably one of those games that would not hit the table very often. Because I could tell you that I have about 4 games here on my shelf that is the one versus all format, and those rarely, if at all, ever get to the game table. So the fact that the app for Imperial Assault is now in the pipeline, and again, they're as far as this date, they have not given a specific street date of when that's going to be released. It's just saying that it's coming soon. But the fact that they made an official announcement on their website was as good as done. It's good enough to say, okay, that's more than just commenting that it's being worked on. It's in the works. They're actually gotten it to the point where it's able to be released, and it's going to be released very, very soon. And it appears that it's following the same format as the app for Mansions of Madness, as far as placing out the tiles and the tokens and doing the scenarios. And speaking of Mansions of Madness, we got to play the new expansion for that, Streets of Arkham. We played the scenario that you had to determine which of the 5 or 6 relics at the museum was cursed. And that was by far, I think, that the most fun scenario that they have on that app right now. We had a blast with that. And we've come to call that particular scenario the Mansions of Madness meets Final Destination, because the way they described as each one of these NPCs start dying, just the way the app described their death was just so hilarious. I mean, it was really. I mean, they took a few pages out of the Final Destination franchise movies, but that was by far the most fun that we've had in any of the scenarios that I have on the app. So if you haven't already gotten that expansion, it is worth it. Just that one new scenario alone is worth getting the expansion, because that was loads of fun. So also going back to Imperial Assault, I think purchasing that on the back burner just because I wanted to see Fantasy Flight Games actually went through with doing the app, and now that it appears that they are, I think I could see getting the game now and just playing it via the app. I think they'll get a lot more gameplay. And I've heard and talked to some other people who already have the game, but recently they just haven't played it that much. And they've actually held off buying any more of the expansions to it because they don't play the game hardly at all. Well, I think that the app will help rejuvenate that the love for that game, and to get people to start playing it again, blow the dust off of it, start getting it to the table more often now, may actually get people to pull the trigger and start buying up those expansions again. Well, our guest for this episode, if you guys are looking for something to get your gamer on your Christmas list, this guy has an Etsy store where he basically sells bling for a lot of different board games. But his approach to creating these accessories and tokens and bling for your games are a little bit unique from something like, your Team Covenant type thing. And you'll see what I mean when you hear the interview. So if you're looking for something to buy that gamer on your list that has all the games, this guy's Etsy store may be something you want to check out. So that's basically it for this episode. We're just kind of taking it easy, going into the holiday season and Thanksgiving Day week. On behalf of Al and myself, this is the Mega Meeple, hoping you all have a great holiday, and we will see you next week with our regularly scheduled program. I think next we have Charterstone from Stonemaier Games being released here in the next week or so. So our next episode we will have Jamie Stegmaier. It is our second interview with him. We actually recorded that interview back in October, but I waited until it approached the time that Charterstone and the Wind Gambit was going to be released in retail. So that's something you could look forward to at next weekend's episode. So without any further ado, here is our guest for this episode. Hope you enjoy it, and go check out his website. Welcome back to Mega Meeple, and today we are talking with Chuck Burgess. And a lot of people like to bling their board games with add-ons and promos and fancy stuff, but it's just going to add to the nuance of the theme and experience. But Chuck has an Etsy store that we'll talk about, and also he does with 3D printing, and he has an interesting approach about how he approaches adding bling to your games. It's not bling for bling's sake, but there's actual purpose to these things. So how you doing, Chuck?
Great. How are you, Thomas?
I'm doing good. All right. So why don't you tell us about how you got into gaming, and if you could shed some light on, for those of us who don't know what 3D printing is.
Sure, absolutely. So my gaming experience started when I was a young child, so way back in the day. And it started with, a lot of the board games that you typically see at Walmart or Target or places like that. The Monopolies, the Yahtzees, things like that, and card games. I mean, my claim to fame was I learned how to play Pinochle when I was 8 years old, and I shot the moon. If you're familiar with Pinochle, that's pretty impressive for an 8-year-old. And then I eventually graduated to Risk and Dungeons and Dragons, and in fact, in I think it was 8th grade, I had my first experience of building my first component, and that was a 28 millimeter minifigure made out of molten lead. I built a form in Metal Shop and made me a metal figure, and that was kind of my first foray into building components, and I really loved it.
Okay.
And so, fast forward 20, 30, 40 plus years, and we have this great technology called 3D printing. And there's various different forms. There's the laser version that will take a liquid base substance and you apply a laser to it, and it will harden the substance and create an element or a component. You have your extrusion devices, which actually melt plastic and extrude it like a noodle. And then they have the other version, which is a clump of powder that they laser and harden and blow away the rest of the powder. In a nutshell, that's basically what happens. Most of what I do is what's called FDM. F is in Frank, D is in David, M is in metal, I guess. And that is the plastic extrusion. You melt it and force it through a hot nozzle, and the G code or the coordinates are spit out to this device that then has these drivers that move it around a platform and prints this three-dimensional thing as it goes around the X and Y axis. It lays down plastic, and then it bumps up on the Z axis, which is the going up in a 3D plane, and it just lays on layer by layer and prints a component.
So how long does it take you to print out like a typical set of tokens?
So it really depends on how many tokens you have and what size they are and the print quality you use. But for example, to print out, I have some Eldritch Horror Gate token holders, I guess is what you call them. And to print out a set of those, I do it in 3 different colors. I have 2 greens, 4 blues, and 6 reds. And that will take me right around 8+ hours to print a set of those. So it's not by any stretch a very fast process, but the quality is good enough that as long as you're not looking at it under a microscope, it's good enough to enhance the theme and create that enriched environment that you like to play in. So.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you had sent me a small sample of some of the things that you have, and I can tell you they're pretty sturdy stuff. I tried to break a few of them, and I couldn't. So I give it to someone else who's a little bit stronger than me, and he was impressed with just the quality and the heftness and the quality, and also the colors. Now, is the colors something that's added to labor, or are they created with the colors? Because some of these colors are pretty. I mean, they're pretty lush. I mean, you can look at I was thinking when I first saw the Etsy store, I think, okay, well, these are photographs on the computer screen, and they may or may not look exactly like this, but when I have them actually in my hand, it's like,
yeah, these colors are pretty vibrant.
Yeah, so when I purchase filament to do the extrusion, I purchase it in color. So what you see is the color that's provided from the company, and I have made it a point to not only is my little workshop that I have in my home office. Not only do I run off 100% solar power, so my carbon footprint is absolutely zero. I also I buy 100% U.S. Produced filament for my machines. So I used to use some Chinese filament, but I kind of made a commitment to myself that I wanted to be 100% made in USA. And so I use a 3D Solutech, I believe is the name of the brand, and those colors come right out of the filament that they ship me when I purchase. So, and I thought the same thing. It's a great filament. It works well, and the colors are just awesome, which adds to the theme of the board game as well.
I mean, some of the tokens and additions that you have can be used for numerous games, like you have the Eldritch Horror, you have some things for Arkham Horror game. I mean, and a lot of those can kind of cross over to other Cthulhu and style games. But you have quite a few for X-Wing and Dead of Winter.
Yes. Yes. In fact, I also print some for a game called Dark, Darker, Darkest, which was a Kickstarter, I believe, back in 2012 or somewhere back in there. I don't remember the details, but I saw a gameplay on it, and I ended up buying it. I ended up creating a plethora of components for Dark, Darker, Darkest, and one of them is a bullet. And it just so happens that it should release today, I believe, for Dead of Winter, Warring Colonies, which happens to have a set of bullets. So I will be updating my components for Dead of Winter, Warring Colonies. I will be providing bullets to replace the cardboard in that game, which are actually bullets that I created for the Dark, Darker, Darkest board game. So yeah, a lot of them are interchangeable. Another popular one I have is Arcadia Quest. I have little heart tokens for tracking life, but they work perfect for Love Letter. So, so yeah, there is quite a bit of crossover that can be done there, and it facilitates the ease of putting up listings so that people can get the components they want for their games.
Right. And I got to tell you, if people as are watching this, you need to go to the internet, and I'll put a link to your Etsy store in the show notes of this episode. But when you go to and the Etsy store is called BGHQ, right? Yes,
stands for Board Game Headquarters. So it should be easy to remember.
When you go to you got to click on the Dead of Winter Helpless Survivor tokens. Those things are really wild. If you want to see something really cool, click on that image and take a look at some of this stuff. This is really neat.
Yeah, in fact, those Helpless Survivor tokens are all unique. So if you purchase that set of tokens, you get 20 unique. And I actually had somebody purchase those and painted them and uploaded the picture to my Facebook page. And he did a great job of making each one look unique, which is great because, again, it adds to the thematics of the game. Instead of those little gray and black cardboard tokens you have out there, you have little busts, if you will, of individuals that become helpless survivors. And then, of course, I also provide tokens for Dead of Winter, The Long Night, which sometimes they become agitated or angry, and so I have a little red spike ring that fits around that to indicate that it's I forget the actual name of it. It's like an angry, helpless survivor. Or our listeners will probably be able to tell us.
How do you approach what games you're going to do tokens for, or how do you get the ideas of taking something that in games that are token heavy, taking those ideas and just kind of tweaking it in such a way that it will just amp up the immersion and experience of the game?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks for asking that, actually, because my approach is really twofold. The first is bling is better than cardboard. Let's face it. You know, when you buy a box, there's a lot of games that are really heavy in cardboard. Like I just purchased Lisboa, and that thing is heavy. If you're familiar with Twilight Imperium, that box is heavy, and most of it's cardboard, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I wanted to create something that fits better in the theme of the game, and so the first one, a lot of people, they'll pay hundreds of dollars to get upgraded components, like sometimes 3 or 4 times the cost of a game. And so for me, when I went out and started searching for components, I found that they were extremely expensive. And I thought to myself, why would I give somebody $40 for a set of components when I can go take that $40 and just buy a brand new game, and when the first one wears out, replace it with the game, right? And so I came up with a philosophy that that you'll see on some of my listings on Etsy. I haven't updated all of them yet, but I thought about this long and hard, and I wanted to have a good purpose for doing what I do. And the first and foremost is improving the game experience. And I'll share a quick example. I sell some gate holders for Eldritch Horror. And if you're familiar with Eldritch Horror, you'll know that those gates come in 3 colors, blue, red, and green. Mm-hmm. Well, part of that game, there's after everybody has taken their turn, there's a mythos phase. And during that mythos phase, sometimes you need to know how many of which color are on the board. And so when we were playing this game, it seems like we had to go to every cardboard gate and check the color every time. Well, with these components, now you can just glance at the board and say, oh, there's 2 red gates and there's 2 green gates. And so you know exactly how many of each color are in there. So the first part of my 4-base philosophy is, 1, improving the game experience in that you don't have to spend a lot of time trying to get information out of the board. Mm-hmm. I also have a reckoning token that sits on top of the monsters inside the monster stand. So you can quickly glance, okay, during the mythos phase, when there's the reckoning, what monsters have reckoning? So you can go right to those monsters, and it speeds up the game. So that's part of that philosophy. The second of the 4-phase approach is the increased or improved quality component, getting rid of the cardboard. I think cardboard is great, and for a game that you're not certain you're going to like, it's great that they provide it in the cardboard because it keeps the cost really low. Mm-hmm. But if you're like me and you get a game that you really love, you just want to pimp that thing out and make it beautiful. And so that's the second phase of my philosophy, is to increase the component quality and make a game that you love even better. The third is to enhance the theme. You know, a piece of mundane cardboard laying on another piece of cardboard doesn't really enhance the experience at all. And so when I create components, I try to provide something that will enrich the theme so that the players feel more engaged and feel like they're more involved in that environment. And then last but not least, was the whole reason I started this was because I couldn't find any components out on the internet or anywhere for that matter that were very cost effective or cost affordable. And so, you know, my final phase is I want to keep it as affordable as possible. In fact, somebody on Facebook said, "How do you do this so inexpensively?" And that was a huge compliment to me, you know, because that's one of my philosophies, is I want to keep it affordable. You know, I was looking for some turrets for X-Wing, and I think the cheapest plastic ones I found were like $30 a piece. And I was like, this is ridiculous. They've got to be cheaper to make than that. And that's what kind of started me down that whole path of, well, you know what? Yeah, it might be a heavy expense up front, but if I can make them affordable and sell them, then I can pay for the equipment and reimburse myself for getting the equipment to make these. And then I can keep blinging out my components and make them available to everyone at a fair price, and not do it to get rich, but to enhance gaming in general.
Yeah, that's good.
And
That's really good.
And the other part of that is to also, like, you'll notice that a lot of board games come with tokens so many tokens of a given type that you don't even use, right? You get 40 of one token, and some games you use 3 to 5 of those tokens. So part of my process also is to provide econo packs. So I shrink down the number of components to a handful of components that would typically help you manage a game at how many components you would typically use, so that you're not spending a ton of money on an exorbitant amount of components that you'll never use. But that doesn't preclude somebody from buying a replacement for every token they own. I will definitely provide that for you if you want it. But I try and keep the components a little bit smaller so they use a little bit less product. So keeping the cost down. I try and provide econo packs, but I also provide luxury packs. Like if you want a full-blown thing, I will happily sell that to you. But that's not my purpose. My purpose is to try and provide something that will enhance the gameplay, that's cost-effective, that improves the theme, and improves the gaming experience all around.
That's neat. That's good, yeah. And as you were talking, I just thought of now. Do you have the products and stuff that you have on your Etsy shop, but do you also do like custom work or take requests as far as commission work?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I did a custom Arcadia Quest door order last July. He wanted so there's some Arcadia Quest doors out on Thingiverse. If you're not familiar with Thingiverse, it's a website that everybody can upload free of charge. They can upload 3D printable items to. And there's tons of board game inserts and board game components as well as other things out there. And somebody uploaded some Arcadia Quest doors, which are used inside the Arcadia Quest game. And a gentleman from Canada reached out to me and said, hey, I want to get some of these doors, but I want them in this size, all the same size. And he ordered, I think it was like 30 or I can't remember how many he ordered. And he said, can you do a custom order for me? And I agreed. Sure, it took me a couple days, but I happily obliged him. And they turned out super, super great. I posted pictures of them on Facebook and on my Tumblr account, and they turned out really well. And so, yeah, I definitely take custom orders. I had another guy in Washington who's a huge X-Wing and Star Wars Armada fan, and I've done a handful of custom jobs for him. Like Armada damaged deck holders and Hoth turrets, special-sized Hoth turrets and different things like that. So I'm always open to, if it's something I can do, and if the price is right for you, then yeah, absolutely. I have no problems doing custom orders.
So if people want to find out more about your products and even get in touch with you to do some custom work, where would they go? How would they contact you?
So the best way to contact me is on my Etsy store, bghq.etsy.com, and you can reach out to me through there. That's the quickest way to communicate with me. Asking me, providing a link to a Thingiverse item or something of that nature, or even, hey, can you do this in a different color? Can you do this in a different quantity? And I'm more than happy to work with you and help you get what you need for your game. I also have a Facebook.com/BGHQ shop, all one word, where I post things about my my fun and forays into 3D printing and blinging out board games. And I believe there's also a public group that's available on Facebook. I don't remember the name off the top of my head. And then I also do a lot of posts to Tumblr, bghq.tumblr.com, which will go directly to my Tumblr blog. And I don't maintain all of them quite as actively as I maintain my Etsy store, because I'm a one-man show. I can't afford to hire anybody because my prices are so low, so I have to do everything myself. But it's my hobby, and it pays to keep me in bling and plastic, so I can keep blinging out all the fun games that I purchase and support on Kickstarter and other places. So yeah, it's but but I do respond. And so if you really, really want to reach out to me, bghq.etsy.com is the place to get a hold of me, and I will typically respond within a day or less.
Excellent. And again, I'll put the link to the Etsy store and the other places in the show notes of this episode. So if you want to get some bling for your games and they're not going to cost you the price of another game, go check out Chuck Burgess' shop and see some of his stuff. Good quality, hard to break stuff, because I tried to break his that he sent me, and they're all still in one piece. I couldn't do it. So there you go. All right. Well, Chuck, thank you so much for coming on the show, and appreciate your time, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Thomas. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening. Now, if you have any ideas or suggestions of what you want to hear about, or maybe a topic of discussion about board games, or if you yourself as a game creator and you have a Kickstarter and want to be a guest on the Mega Meeple to talk about your game, you can contact me through the website at themegameeple.com and go to the Contact Us page. Also, if you'd like to support the show with a small donation, you can go to the Patreon page and donate $1 a month or so. It will really help out with the hosting costs and such. So thanks again for listening, and tell all your friends and share with your friends this episode if you think they'll like it. And until next week, this is Tom saying, game on.